which is the right answer? A, this is the right answer, or B, A is the right answer? This is a question clearly defined in black and white. So raise your hand if you think A is the right answer, and raise your hand if you think B is the right answer. I'm sure we came to a relatively unanimous decision, unless of course we have someone who desires to sow chaos. Now, in the American school system, children are raised with these kinds of questions, clearly defined in black and white, with 0 to none ambiguity, except the only difference is it's 3 wrong answers and 1 right answer. These students have been raised to believe that anything different to what they believe to be right is to be wrong, red marks on a test. So what do these students do when they come across an ambiguous question, a question in the real world? Well, they don't develop skills to answer these questions. I mean, at least not until the development of AP classes in high school. AP classes in high school have 2 testing portions, multiple choice questions and written-based exam questions, answering a prompt. But this is all written down. What if you're having an argument with a friend? How are you going to respectfully argue with them? How are you not going to get emotional and say something that's demeaning or degrading? This is a very important skill set that we are not raised to have. We don't have any practice in doing this unless you have really good parents, and it's not something that's like built into the school system. So how are we going to build these skills? How are we going to respectfully have an argument and make sure that we don't destroy a 1-month, 6-month, 1-year relationship? Well, that's what this talk is about. We're going to start with an easy example question. What came first, the chicken or the egg? Now, I'm sure as soon as you heard that question, you came to a decision. Our brains are hardwired to make quick split-second decisions, and that's okay. It's survival instincts, you know? But it's important to take in all information. For example, the Stroop experiment is an experiment where you sit a subject down and have them read the colors aloud. The word would be red, but it would be the color brown, for example. And this can be difficult because you're taking in 2 different stimuli, the color of the word as well as reading the word. And this can be difficult as if you're going quickly because you may read the word or say the color aloud incorrectly, but you probably correct yourself. So, therefore, you need to take in information in a similar way. You need to take in all perspectives and all stimuli to make sure that you're making a correct opinion. So our first step to having a respectful argument is to formulate an opinion. Now, what do we do next? Well, we need to gather all of our evidence. So, going to our example question, what came first, the chicken or the egg, our first piece of evidence will be an article from the Australian Academy of Science from Emma Bruce, and the author writes that eggs first came 340 to 370 million years ago, while the first chickens likely evolved more 58,000 years ago. These are obviously 2 very different numbers, and we can come to the conclusion that the egg came first. But she does address the counter perspective that chicken shells, the shell of the egg, have a particular protein that it's made out of, and this protein can only be built by enzymes within a chicken ovary, which some scientists believe that this means that the chicken came first. Taking a different perspective from a religious context from the article Answers in Genesis, talking about what came first, chicken or the egg, the author addresses the fact that in the first book of the Bible, it says that on day 5 of creation week is when all winged creatures were created on the earth. So the chicken came first, right? Well, then the author goes on to address that this likely isn't the chicken that we know and love today, but likely some kind of before domestication kind of ancestor. So the species that we know, love, and today, the Gallus domesticus, likely came later due to human domestication. So we have all of our argument points. So which side are we going to argue for? Well, I'm going to argue for the fact that the chicken came first. Surprise. So next step, actually arguing the point. Well, how do we do that? As I said, it's pretty easy to get emotional, and some people will say emotions are not necessary for an argument and can even hinder your argument. But I think that this is fundamentally wrong. Passion drives an argument. How can I convince you that something is wrong if I can't connect to you on an emotional level? Passion is needed to have a good argument, and it's going to help other people realize how important this topic is and it's going to show your conviction in a topic. In contrast to emotions, something that you can avoid are extreme adverbs, such as always, completely, or never. These are going to invalidate your argument, and you might be saying, Joy, how will this invalidate my argument? Well, think if you're arguing with your mother. She may say, you never do the things that I ask you. obviously this isn't true, and now you're going to think of every single time you have done the things that you've asked her. And even though she's referencing this one singular event, you've invalidated her feelings, her purpose, and her argument. So extreme adverbs are very important to avoid. If you need to add conviction to an argument, it's much better to talk using sparse adjectives that are very eloquent. This will really grab your audience's attention, especially if it's not words that are in the common vernacular. So let's argue our point, coming back to the example question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? First thing I'm going to start with is using information from the first article talking about the proteins within the specific shell of a chicken egg. As I stated before, when the chicken ovary goes to create the egg, it has specific enzymes that create proteins that form the egg shell, meaning that the chicken's egg shell that we know and love, that we use to create your omelets in the morning, need to be created using this enzyme. So that would show that the chicken's egg would have come second to the chicken. But in regards to the question, would this really be a chicken's egg? Well, using English grammar, we know that to indicate singular belonging, that we have to have an apostrophe before the S. So, chicken's egg would show an egg that belongs to a chicken, but a chicken egg is an egg that contains a chicken. But that's not really what the question is asking, is it? Well, due to the fact that it's what came first, the chicken or the egg, referring to eggs in general, I've effectively proved that eggs came, hold up, opinion, chickens came first. Don't worry about it, guys. The chickens 100% came first. I'm completely right. Like, you're all wrong. Don't worry about it. Just disregard everything I was talking about and just believe in me 100%. Like, I'm 100% right. And that brings us to one of our final points, being willing to change your opinion. Just because you're wrong doesn't mean that that's not okay or that you're a failure. Being wrong is a fundamental part of life. You're going to be wrong at some point in your life, and that's okay. Despite red marks on a test indicating that maybe being wrong is a failure, and having our students believe that just because they can't get a question on a piece of paper right makes them unsuccessful, we need to address the fact that you're not always going to be right. You don't know everything in the world. And even if you did know everything in the world, that doesn't mean you're able to do everything in the world. So one of our final points is, it's okay to be wrong. And I would like to proudly pronounce, I am wrong. So, you finished your argument, you finished presenting all your evidence, and you're probably having a discussion with your peers. And you're trying to get everyone on the same side. I'm talking to someone, but they firmly believe that the chicken came first, even though I've defaulted to thinking that the egg came first. What do? Well, maybe you use all the English terms, ethos, logos, pathos, try to get them on your side. You use all the things we talked about before. You avoid those extreme adverbs, but they just still won't agree. I mean, now you're getting frustrated. What are you going to do? Are you going to mean them? Are you going to use mean words? No, don't do that. Obviously, it's just an argument, and that's not, everything doesn't rely on this argument. Sometimes you need to take the words of our favorite ice queen and just let it go. You can only control your opinions, and you can't control anyone else's. Thank you.